If you've been following Christ at all over the last weeks or months or years, the odds are hopeful and hopefully pretty good that you have served him at some point. You've done something for God. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it because I really want to please God, because I'm thankful to him, or is it because everybody expects me to do it? We're going to be in chapters 9 and 10. We're going to be in chapter 15, and we're going to be in chapter 28 of 1 Samuel. And we're going to see that we cannot be empowered by the presence of God if our heart craves the honor of people. See, this story is an interruption in the book of 1 Samuel. Up until this point, the spotlight has really been on Samuel, and it's really an incredible, the first 8 chapters are incredible depiction of how God works through circumstances. And up until this point, everything's kind of been building to a climax. Israel, who has never ever had a king, they were led by Moses in the wilderness, and then they were led by the judges once they got into the land, and that didn't go super well. And now they're looking to find a king. Samuel, anoint a king to lead us. And then there's this interruption. They start talking about this guy looking for donkeys. Like, really? The youngest? Benjamin. Right? So he was from the tribe of the youngest son, and apparently his clan in the tribe was also not really great honor. So Samuel starts giving him all these honors, and he's like, why, who am I? Why would you talk to me like that? He doesn't know what God has been doing in the background. Chapter 10, then Samuel took a flask of oil and poured it on his head and kissed him and said, has not the Lord anointed you to be prince over his people Israel? See, God had already been moving. God had already been setting the scene. God had already been talking to Samuel about what was about to happen. And it happens the way that God says it's going to happen. Never had a king. And Saul wasn't looking to be that guy. He didn't have his elephant badge on, shaking hands and kissing babies. He wasn't gunning for this position. He was looking for donkeys. God uses the least likely people for unprecedented moves. But he was empowered by the Spirit of God, and then he was equipped by the prophet Samuel. Samuel told him, this is what a king is supposed to do, and he wrote it down so that he wouldn't forget. This is the rights and responsibilities of a king. He was empowered by the Spirit of God, and he was equipped by a godly man. I think that's important. Samuel in chapter 12 continues to be a godly influence in the nation, telling the people that they need to continue to seek after the Lord. Even though you have a king, don't let that be your comfort. Seek after the Lord. He's king for 2 years. And in 13 and 14, he compromises himself. He's impatient. He's foolish. He's reckless. He makes rash promises. Things are not going well for this guy. But you can't give God a greater gift than obedience. You can't honor God if you don't listen to him. Jesus picks up on this attitude. We think that we can give God greater glory if we do things our way than if we do what he tells us to do. Even though he's sinned, even though he's been caught in his sin, even though the man of God has told him, you will no longer be king, he says, no, but come with me. Don't turn, you're the visible representation of God, so I need you here. I need you to go back with me to Gilgal so the people think that I'm still in charge. He begs Samuel, stay, walk with my army. I need the elders of Israel to show me honor. When you're responsible for people, though, when you take responsibility to lead people, you are accountable for their actions. That's really difficult, especially when you have kids. We forget sometimes that our sin is pain to God. We talked about this morning in Bible fellowship. When we sin, it does cause pain to God. Our sin separates us. Saul spends the rest of his days tormented by God. In chapter 16 and verse 14, we say, now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and a harmful spirit from the Lord tormented him. He was tormented. He was rejected by God. And he seeks out all of the different ways that he could possibly get some kind of peace. He is listening to him and then throwing spears at him, and then listening to him and throwing spears at him. And then he chases him all around the country to try and kill him. He blames David for his sin. But we cannot be empowered by the presence of God if our heart craves the honor of people. And almost as a nail in the coffin, let's look at chapter 28. First, he's desperate for direction in light of this threat. There's an army sitting on his front door, and he's scared. And he goes to God, and God has forsaken him. He tries every avenue available to him, and God does not give him an answer. And he's desperate. Verse 15, and Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? Saul answered, I am in great distress, for the Philistines are warring against me, and God has turned away from me and answers me no more, either by prophets or by dreams. Therefore I have summoned you to tell me what I shall do. So Samuel is like, what are we doing here? Why do you need me for this? Well, God's not answering me. Didn't I already tell you that he wasn't going to? Didn't I already tell you that you're not going to be the king anymore? What's interesting, why did Saul agree to go see Samuel to begin with? Do you remember? What did the servant say to him? He's a man of God. He's held in honor, and everything he says comes true. I wonder if he understood that night. I wonder if he took responsibility that night, if he stopped blaming David that God had abandoned him. 1 Corinthians 11, 2 Corinthians 13, Galatians 6, examine yourself. Look at your own heart. Even though you trust Jesus for salvation, are you still disobeying the clear commandments of God and justifying them because you think that somehow, if you do it your way rather than God's way, he's going to get more honor? Whose honor do you seek? Do you hope that people are going to build you up? Do you hope that people are going to hold you in high respect? Do you do all the right things because everybody's expecting you to do that? Or do you seek after God in his heart? We cannot be empowered by the presence of God if our heart craves the honor of people. Let's pray.